Great spot to bring your friends and your family. Thibodeau's Cajun Cooking.
You back live?
Back to live, back live, back live. See how I did that, man? And segue right into it, man. I learned that from Chris Howell. Chris Howell, man. You know, Chris Howell has been in the business a long time. When I was a little boy, I grew up.
Yeah, it's been that long, man.
He was a little boy.
You were a little boy, huh?
Right.
I didn't even know how to respond to that. Oh, the sound guy like, man, you about to bust my microphone over there, dude.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was on the radio when it was a little boy. He's absolutely right.
So, man, you know, we got people tuning in, but I just like hanging out, man. With you gonna ruin the interview, but quit laughing.
Dude. You don't know what I do. Oh, your Facebook.
Oh, you doing Facebook?
He's corresponding with his Facebook
Look,
audience.
he got fans and stuff.
It's really Benny who we need to aspire to be like, man. I'm your dude,
man.
Mr. Make It Happen.
Yeah.
Well, now you guys will be have a little remorse once you get too close to me, so don't go there.
Oh,
Man,
man, well,
you make it
that sounds
happen.
like a whole other show, Ed. I don't know. We better move on.
We better move on. Man. Okay, we
Like
got
Willis
people.
Johnson used to say, House and Ever.
Okay, House and Never. House and Never. House and Never, we got people listening in to us right now. We have Eric Wilson running for city council. Used to be deputy mayor pro tem, is listening in. Tim Provost, one of the, well, as a matter of fact, both of them are members of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So we have them listening in. Hopefully we'll be able to see them later on today. But, you know, we also had another Alpha brother over there. We had Tim Williams.
Yep. You know, I am grateful to Tim Williams, man, Williams Fried Chicken, man, for their support of In the Huddle. Tim attended our first In the Huddle session last year in August and brought about 6 men with him. And he really enjoyed it, and those men enjoyed it, so much so after that session, he said, hey, man, whenever you do this again, we've got your back. And he has proven to be true with that, and I'm grateful to him and Mr. Howell Williams for their support of In the Huddle.
And Mr. Williams has always been a jewel
Yep.
to be with. We need that presence of a older gentleman that you know. I was just teasing about how old I was by saying I was watching you, but you know, Mr. Williams, people like that, you know, that it feels it's gap closure.
Right. You know, Ed, that is so true, and I feel like so many times, man, we're not seizing the moment or the opportunity to be in the presence of men like that. And because you talk about a man who took a business and started something from nothing and grew the type of business that he has, also has maintained a marriage over 40 years while growing this business, growing his sons to be respectable young men. I mean, that's the type of wisdom we need to be sitting up under. Those are the type of men we need to be getting the knowledge from before these men leave here. So many times we just take people for granted and think they'll forever be here, and well, there'll be a next time. But when you see someone like that who's going to be in a meeting, you need to be in that meeting to get the wisdom from those guys. Because, I mean, hey, he's done what we're aspiring to do.
One of the things that I keyed in on with Mr. Williams is he's a man, but he's a gentle man. You know, he reminds me of a grandfatherly figure who would, you know, tell someone, hey, this is not what you do, and you can do it if you want to.
Right. Yeah.
But there's a consequence to doing it.
Yeah.
He's always teaching, you know, but his humility, you're right, is really just an example of what you're trying to be and how to stay humble once you become successful.
Right.
You know, he's big about staying in the community. He makes sure he steals offices over on Ledbetter, and you know he makes sure that he has an impact in that area. You know, so he's a living example of social responsibility and the impact he's having in that particular area over there. And so he's always to be applauded. He's very gracious. He hardly says no. You know, if you ask him for something, he hardly says no. I'm really honored to have him.
Servant leadership.
Absolutely.
Yeah, servant leadership.
Yeah, because it's not just, he doesn't just write a check. You know, he shows up. He actually shows up to make sure that he's a part of the event and not just writing a check and saying, you know, I've done my part. He actually shows up to be a part of it, and he certainly appreciate him for that. And you talked about the fact that gentleness, and I think that's important because while we see that gentle side of him, we also know that he's tough as a nail to
Right.
be able to maintain business and grow the business the way that he has. And I think that's important for men to see. It doesn't mean that you always got to be flexing your muscle, but you do have to be, when it comes to in the boardroom, you do have to be sharp. You have to have your stuff together, and you got to be prepared to fight for what's yours. But then when it comes to your family and part of your community, you don't always have to show that macho side of you. We don't need that all the time. But do show it when it's necessary. But we don't need that all the time. And he gives us that balance.
You know, last time we met, we were at the Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
And you surprised us when you said iron sharpens iron. You tell us what you did. Tell the audience what you did.
You know, man, I always like to try to give back. When we ask someone to be a part of something, you guys immediately say yes, you want to be a part of it. So I thought, what can we do to give back to you guys? And one of the things we did was we went out and we got swords. And we wanted to give you the swords because the sword symbolizes, again, as men, when we come together in the way that we come together, it's iron sharpening iron. And we wanted to visually show that by giving you guys the sword. So now every time you walk into your den or wherever it is you place your sword, I hope that you will forever remember that moment.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and ask Benny the question. Where you have your sword?
It's actually on the mantle.
It's on the mantle?
Yeah, my grandson's fascinated with it. I told him when he got of age, I was going to give it to him. It's going to become a family heirloom. So thank you for
Man,
that. Yeah.
awesome. You're more than welcome. I didn't realize that.
See, see how you...
I'm going to have his name engraved on it. I'm going to have mine and my son's name engraved on it. And I'm going to make it a family heirloom that we're going to pass along down to the men in our family.
Well, I wanted to give you guys AR-15s, but I thought that probably would go too well with your wives, so we figured we just sell it.
Well, the sword went well.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Maybe you tell it off on yourself. Did it not go?
I mean, it's like, you get certain gifts, it's like you come home, you get some brownies, you come home, you get, some cake or something. What are you doing? What is this? It's a sword. What are you going to do with that?
So next time we should ask your wife for permission before we give you a sword.
Oh, Pete.
Opinion.
See, it got real quiet on my side.
Yeah. I think you said opinion. I think it's permission.
But the sword, it was pretty good. It's pretty good because everybody oohed and awed when it happened.
I like to try to give people something that really I think is meaningful, but at the same time something they probably wouldn't give themselves.
No, you're right.
Well, you did mission accomplished. You turned back to turn heirlooms.
No, I didn't think about going out and getting a sword.
Good deal.
It was good.
And it was a nice quality piece. It wasn't anything at the bazaar or anything that you could pick up. It was,
You gonna just go throw some shade over people on Loop 12 now, man?
no, I would say.
Like he went.
How many bazaars are in?
You know,
in the
a
DFW
Big T
area?
bazaar. Everybody sitting
No,
there, they
no.
think of Big T bazaar.
I didn't. I happen to know a few other bazaars, so
okay.
I didn't think about Big T.
As we digress.
Yeah.
So Ed, how about this weather we having?
All right, I have a question. So Chris, you have a book out.
Yeah, I do.
Man Talk, and you actually wrote
I'm
that
sitting there, I
book
brought it.
some years ago. I know you just did a revised edition.
Mm-hmm. Thanks to
And-
Johnny Mac.
And yeah, thank you, Johnny Mac.
GPS and Johnny Mac.
Yes, and let's talk about why it's still relevant today.
Really, everything that we talk about in the book, Man Talk, the hard things men never talk about, it's some of those same issues that we're faced with today. Unfortunately, really.
Can you let the audience see what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure which camera we're on or where I am.
I'll just look at the tape later.
There it is. It'll show at some point.
Yeah.
But it's Man Talk, the book, The Hard Things Men Never Talk About. It's available online, chrishowellonline.com. That's a shameless plug. Get it there, $15. But really, we're talking about men in communication, men in sex, men in money. I mean, those are some of the same issues that we're faced with today, with really getting men to feel comfortable opening up and talking about these subjects. And even more importantly in the book, what I point out is the fact that many times we don't know how to talk about these subjects with our wives or our spouse. So it's really figuring out how do you go about having these conversations with your wife and not expecting her to think the same way that you think. Because so many times, I think men and women both are guilty of this, to where we expect our spouse or our mate to think like we do. But I think it's attributed to Billy Graham. I don't know if it's Billy Graham who really said it or not, but somebody said, if we are both thinking alike, then one of us is unnecessary. So I think we should appreciate the way that we view money differently, the way we handle money differently, but then let's talk about how we come together as a couple and compromise and figure out how we make it work for us. But don't make me diminish my difference from your difference. Let's just figure out how we can come together and work together to get through this relationship and the things that we're accomplishing to do together. So that's some of the things we talk about in the book. And the book is really a spin-off of the Man Talk sessions that we were doing. Really listening to the men for those 3.5 years, hearing what their concerns were, and then putting them in the book form for those who couldn't attend the sessions to be able to get that same information.
And the thing that's interesting, all of it is still relevant today.
Absolutely relevant
So
today.
it's,
It's I probably not a great comparison, but it's just like the Bible. Truth is true. Truth never gets old. So I think it's the same thing with that book. We did recently revise it to add in a chapter in my perspective on Me Too. And I appreciate Johnny Mack again for his contribution to that. And he put the foreword in that book. So Johnny Mack and GPS, if you are looking to publish a book, certainly you want to contact him. Johnny Mack is a great friend of this station. I think they heard the promo spot a moment ago.
He's got a lot of momentum going. He's helping a lot of people who never thought they would write a book.
Yeah.
And he's putting a product out there for them.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you Johnny Mack can get you going really quick.
Yeah. So it is, so again, the book is available. ChrisHowellOnline.com is the website. Right there on my website, you can get the book $15, and shipping and handling will get it out to you.
You know, we're talking about In the Huddle, but you know, Chris Howell, you guys have there's a lot of depth to you. You have the Chris Howell Foundation. Can you share with us what that is? That's
Absolutely. Chris Howell Foundation, well, let me first of all, I guess, personally, at my core, I'm an encourager. I'm a communicator and an encourager. So really all of this is an extension of who I am. We started the Chris Howell Foundation initially to really just make our community aware of HIV/AIDS and the fact that it's still an epidemic in our communities. So it was really helped to bring awareness to that and to educate individuals. But when that started in 2016, in the last couple of years as we've been going throughout the Metroplex and talking to people and telling folks what not to do, not to engage in risky behavior, that type of thing, so you don't contract the virus. We really learned that top of mind for folks is, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to make it? You know, how am I going to get from where I am today to where I aspire to be? Those type of things are what folks are really in need of. So we started looking at a model and thought, you know what, let's change the format that we're doing here. So now the mission of the Chris Howell Foundation is to strengthen individuals and families. That is in the area of financial literacy, mental health, and then health in general. Because we feel like if we can help to empower individuals and give them the information that they need to, again, regain hope, and then get the tools necessary to move them forward, we're now empowering them. And once I empower you, I no longer have to tell you what not to do, because now you have a new outlook on life. You're not going to put yourself in a situation to where you're going to contract the virus. You're going to strap up, or whatever it takes to be to protect yourself. So that's what we're going with In the Huddle for men. We have a Mother's Day brunch coming up for the ladies that we're going to be empowering the women. And then everything that we do with our financial literacy courses, we've got something coming up in August with UNT Dallas, to where we're going to actually be out there on the campus of UNT Dallas, empowering our young people to understand that they don't have to go in debt at 19, 20 years old, messing up their credit. Can't get insurance, can't get a job, all these things because your credit is affected. So
and
it's all about
Who are
empowerment.
you going to be partnering with on the financial piece?
That's UNT Dallas and Texas Capital Bank.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds solid.
So where's the next In the Huddle?
Next In the Huddle right
I
now.
know. I mean, just give us an idea.
We're eyeing a location, man, and we're really excited about the possibility of actually, I'm just going to just say, we're really excited about the possibility of taking it to the AT&T Stadium. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
And there's a concept behind that. It wouldn't be on the field. Let me just clarify that part, because there's a huge price tag to get on the field. But there is
Jerry
a,
wouldn't let you do it for free?
do it for free. Jerry, do it for free.
Everybody started laughing again.
But there's a place in there where we can do it, and I think it would be great. And the message behind it, again, we always aim to make sure the event not only gives you an experience, but it gives you exposure. And I would like to give them an exposure to a particular room that's in that place that I think they can walk away with a strong message from.
And then a lot of guys, they've never been in the stadium itself.
Yeah, they just driven past.
Yeah, just going into the stadium, I'm telling you, it's an experience just going there.
I'm a taxpaying citizen here in Arlington and had never visited the stadium until the day we went to do the site visit. And when I went to do the site visit, I'm like, man, I didn't know this was what my dollars were paying for.
Yeah, and you know what? Your dollars are going to good work. Jerry's backed up. He said, you build me a stadium, I'm gonna bring everything here.
Yeah, it was a traffic jam just getting here to the studio.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what they have something going on right now at AT&T. Yeah.
Yes, but we're really excited about that, and I will tell you, I'll let this out as well. We're also toying around with the idea, should we take it to the stadium? We're looking at how we can bring women in to be a part of that session, not necessarily in the same session as men, but in the same environment, and then at some point we actually come together, because we are getting a lot of support from ladies. The ladies are really excited about what we're doing within the huddle. Maybe it's because their sons can become involved with it, their husband become involved with it, their boyfriend, whoever, or they may get a future husband that is a product of attending the session. But we're really looking to try to do it, bring our ladies involved as well, because we can't keep having separate conversations. At some point, we have to come together and dialogue together, because I think that we look at what's going on the surface. There's becoming this disconnect between African American men and women, and we need to make sure that we do our part to try and correct that.
Yeah, shout out to Doc's Bookstore in Fort Worth. The owner of Doc's Bookstore sent her son last
Yes, month.
Mhm.
And thank you for making that happen. I think you were part instrumental in making that happen. So thank you.
Not a problem. Making it happen. Mr. Benny Franklin, make it happen. What do you think about it now? I mean, you were there from the inception, because I got in a little bit as it was going on.
Well, you know what? First of all, I was flattered Chris asked me to help him. And so, of course, I can't. When Chris Howell calls, you don't say no. And you don't. And he's worked that type of stuff.
I need a loan. I'm gonna call you.
Well, hey, you know what? You know what? Here, let me tell you, I practice this. Only give what I can forgive. So if you ask me for 100, I might give you 20 because I can forgive that.
So he just put it out there. He ain't only gonna give me 20.
No, whatever I can forgive. Whatever I can forgive.
10%, put it in the cup.
Yeah, whatever. So I never say no, but I have to size up your ability to repay. So if I size up that you may not be able to repay me, then I'm just going to give you what I can forgive that debt on, and I'll just give you that.
You in the car business, huh?
That's a lesson in that.
Yeah, that's how I live about it. I never say no. I never say no.
That's good.
So no, but in the huddle, it's right in my wheelhouse because my ministry is leadership. I'm part of the John Maxwell team. My whole life is right now. I've dedicated my life to trying to give back and show men that you can get things turned around. I'm an old hood rat, and I'm not gonna go too into detail about my testimony, as I like to say. But I know if a guy like me, with simple means, with all of the distractions in the world, and with a clear path, and I'm not talking about filled with obstacles, I mean a clear path to the penitentiary, and was able to get detoured off, thanks, I give a lot of credit to my wife. I tell a lot of people, my wife married into her family really saved my life. That took me to a different course. And from that point forward, I started getting all of these men introduced to my life. I got into the automobile industry. Believe it or not, a gentleman by the name of Ed Fluellen family. He was cutting my hair. He was like, man, you always selling something. I'm hustling all the time. He said, you ought to be selling cars. You're pretty good at making people buy stuff. And he didn't know that little seed right there is what got me in the automobile industry. So that pushed me along. And so from that point forward, and just meeting guys like Ed and you, and just meeting all of these men that took a big part in helping me develop and start getting my life on track, start making my life work. And then I got motivated to say, hey, you know what? There's a lot of guys like me that can't see in making it work, and they can only see, their lens is only about one way, and that that's an unlawful way. And so what if I can show these guys there is another side of it? And so it just took that, and so now that I saw that that's Chris's platform, I have to be a part of that. I have to talk about how I can help guys turn their life around, because there are a lot of guys like me. I'm a simple brother from Oak Cliff. There's not a whole lot to me other than I'm accountable for my mistakes. I own up when I make a bad decision. I celebrate when I have a good decision, but I make sure I've ridden myself of the pride and ignorance of not inviting accountability partners. If I'm going to bring in Chris Howell into my friendship circle and say, hey, Chris, mentor me, help me, be a friend to me, then if he sees me doing something, throw it off or something wrong, then I have to, the prerequisite to that is him being able to correct me. Mm-hmm. Same with you, Ed. And of course, Ed, anybody, if you're a friend with Ed will correct you. I just want to make sure. Matter of fact, anybody, can somebody type amen out there? Just
and that is a true friend.
That's a true friend. Somebody that'll hold you accountable and say, hey, you know what, man, that's not right. You might want to rethink that, or just say, man, please, I'm clean that up for you, Ed. So you need to get it together. And so we need more of that.
You don't have people think I use bad language, man. Don't do that.
No, man.
Well, you don't consider it as bad language.
That's just
how you talk.
That's just how you express. Yeah, you just express yourself.
You don't clean it up.
Yeah, you want to, Ed, you're a wordsmith, man. You want to use impactful words.
That's true. That's why we want you to pick up the North Dallas Gazette.
Nice.
That's why he's Ed Gray.
Very nice. So in the huddle is something that we need here in Dallas, and Chris and I were talking about how you go to a lot of the bigger cities, and they have men empowerment programs that are actively being involved, and especially right now with the Me Too movement going on, and that's really giving a lot of fuel and energy. I mean, high octane fuel to women taking a lead role. You know, you got more judges than ever, female judges coming on board. Females are getting empowered to stand up and take a leadership role. Now, I'd like Chris's, you know, Chris said something that's really important. Men, we were designed to lead. So we still have to make sure that we're comfortable with women in a leadership position as well. But that doesn't mean relinquishing your leadership. But your leadership needs to be effective enough where she can trust your decision making. And you can't get complacent and pass off decision making to her, because that would make you a coward.
Right? And that's the reason why we're going to come right back during the third segment, the second hour when we come back. If you want to hang out a little while longer, whatever.
Benny asked me to share my perspective on car buying or something of that nature. So
okay,
yeah,
all right, let's do that. So we will be right back after these drops.
Hey, this is Shucky Duck, and I listen to Ed Gray, better known as the Commish, on Fishbowl Radio. Check out the show every weekday, every Saturday from 3 to 5. You can hear some of the most outstanding topics. So